question is from Ander Beth. You mentioned how carbs aren't essential, but where do you find they're especially helpful?
Okay, so
performance.
What they're referring to is that how carbohydrates are not an essential macronutrient. Now remember, macronutrients are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Macro means large. So we have micronutrients too, like vitamins and minerals and other types of things. But the macronutrients are those three big ones. And all food contains one of those or two or all of those things, proteins, fats, and carbs. Proteins and fats, you have to eat them.
Yeah.
There are fatty acids
or you die
that your body cannot produce on its own. And if you don't eat these fatty acids, eventually your body will break down and you'll become ill or die. Same thing with protein. There are amino acids that are considered essential. That you remember, proteins are made up of amino acids. If you don't eat these amino acids, you will also get sick and maybe even eventually die. Carbohydrates, not essential. That means that you could go the rest of your life without eating a single carbohydrate, and whatever glucose requirements your body may have, your body can produce those from proteins or it uses ketones from fats. So you don't need to eat carbs. That being said, are carbs helpful? Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty conclusive. Studies show that when it comes to performance, especially explosive type performance, eating carbohydrates is a good thing. If your carbs are low or no carbs, you're going to reduce your athletic performance.
It's just readily accessible. Like you feel the difference of energy, like on command with carbs. Like if I know that I have a certain amount of carbs, I know that I'll be able to burn and have that accessible energy like on command right then.
It's also it's much easier to bulk or build with carbohydrates than without. I mean that's there's people or examples of people that have done the ketogenic diet and have still built muscle. Doesn't mean you can't, but try building muscle on the ketogenic diet and then try incorporating carbs and tell me which one is significantly easier to do.
Way easier.
Yeah,
way easier. You're stronger. Obviously, you get better pumps in the gym. It's easier to eat more food. I find carbohydrates can be more appetite stimulating at times.
Oh, way more appetite stimulating. Yeah. I mean, you have a bowl of oatmeal in the morning. I guarantee, in 2 hours later, you're starving. Have yourself a MCT and butter coffee,
or eat a bowl of bacon.
Yeah, right. And watch how good you are. It satiates you until 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
so.
if you eat all three macronutrients, your body produces and uses the energy from carbohydrates first. It's the fastest, easiest source of energy for your body. Now, why is it not essential? Probably because humans evolved during periods of time where there were no carbohydrates available. Carbohydrates in nature largely come from, pretty much all come from plants, plant sources. Well, we've had a few ice ages on Earth, and I'm sure there were periods of time when humans were walking around before they learned how to plant, plants and grow crops. You're walking around, there's no plants. Yeah. I'm not getting any carbohydrates, and so our bodies
mammoths.
Yeah, and so our bodies evolved to create its own energy off of fats and proteins, which we could almost always find because we were hunters. We're apex hunters. Now that doesn't make it ideal. I want to communicate that because I think a lot of people think, oh, they're not essential, therefore it's ideal to not eat carbohydrates. No, the studies done on the healthiest populations on Earth shows that some of the healthiest populations on Earth eat a higher carbohydrate diet as well. Now, there's some that eat very low carbohydrates. It's not one of those things that's like, it's not good or bad, but I will say this, for performance, it's a good thing. This is conclusive, by the way. There's no debate. This is 100% conclusive. Now, there are some athletic endeavors that low carbohydrates or no carbohydrates may be perfectly fine. We're talking about the low intensity, long duration, steady state type, endurance type activities. Like if you're going to do a slow jog or walk for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, or swim at a slow pace for miles and miles and miles, you could do fine on really, really low or no carbohydrates.
Being fat adapted.
Yeah, your body's burning fats. But But you want speed, power, strength.
Well, that's why I see the benefit of, ketones more as the mental clarity aspect of it. And I've definitely experienced the sharpness that provides versus having a lot of carbs in my system. It's a different experience.
That's a good point. I do notice that as well. If I go very low carb and my fats are high, after that whole transition period, I do get that sharpness. Now, I do want to say this. If you're following a diet that makes you as an individual, your healthiest, that's the best diet for you.
Right. Yeah.
So I know a few people who eat a very extreme no carbohydrate diet known as carnivore.
We talk about Michaela Peterson. She's
Yeah.
a good example of this, of somebody who, on no carbohydrates.
All she eats is meat.
Right.
That's all she eats. Now, she's got autoimmune issues that pop up whenever she eats anything that's not meat.
Mm-hmm.
So for her best performance is going to be no carbohydrates. But if you're otherwise healthy, I wouldn't. They're best for performance, for speed, for muscle building, and dare I say, in some cases, even for fat loss. If your carbs are too low and it's starting to affect your hormones negatively, or it's affecting your workouts negatively, and you're not able to build muscle, what happens when you're on a low calorie diet? Your body sometimes wants to lose muscle, and cutting carbs completely out may encourage that process of losing muscle, which then down the line may lead to a slower metabolism. If we've talked about that ad nauseum, that then can cause problems for you long term in terms of fat loss. So besides the individual variants, carbs are great for most things.